Brought to you by JMR Rentals, professional digital cinema and broadcast equipment rentals in Brooklyn, New York. JMRNY.com. Hello and welcome to No Rest for the Weekend, where we go behind the scenes and talk to the creators of independent entertainment. I'm Jason Godbey, and joining me via Zoom today, she is the executive director of the Winter Film Awards, Miss Steffanie Finn. Welcome, Steffanie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's great to be with you finally.
Yeah, I know we were kind of going back and forth, and I'm glad that we could finally do this. It's kind of a little miracle because the Winter Film Awards was the last in-person event that we covered in 2020, right before the shutdown. You guys were like right before the cutoff.
Lucky. We were so lucky. Right before, like the weekend before the cutoff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I was at like a client meeting or something the next day, and they were kind of talking about it, and the next thing you know, boom, it was just done. But it was a lovely event, and I know that you guys are going to do it again this year, but you're not doing it at the same time, obviously, because we're already past the winter. But I want to talk to you about that and kind of what you're doing, with the way things are now, because I know that everybody's going to have a different plan. But I want to talk to you about you first and kind of, how did you get into this mess called show business, and what is your origin story?
Well, my story is not a show business story. I am not a film guy. I don't even really watch that many movies. I am an IT project manager for a living. That is my day job. And I run massive data projects and sales systems and all of that. But my friend is a filmmaker, and he's been in the industry forever. He's very technical. He knows all the camera stuff, and he watches movies. And he was the one who wanted to start a film festival. And I helped a little bit the first year. And what became obvious is that he is brilliant about films and film technology and film equipment, but he's not the world's most organized person. And I am. So between us, we built this event that uses both of our skills. So he's responsible for the parties and all of the film tech, and our huge award show is all George. And then I'm responsible for the organization, the getting everything out, the presentations, the images for advertising, the organizing judging, organizing submissions, organizing selections and volunteers and all of that. And so between the two of us, we've got such different skill sets that it works really well as far as putting together this massive event. But I'm not the film guy. I'm not. It's weird. And so it's weird being in the film industry for the festival because it's so different from my day job. Just totally different people, different ways of doing things. So it's kind of cool. It gives me something, a little variation in my corporate drone day job.
And what is your partner's name?
George Isaacs. So he was the original founder of the festival. And yeah, 10 years later, we are still friends, which is pretty impressive considering, it's hard putting together a festival with no money. And so we've had our share of battles, but we really we work well together and make each other better. So it's been really great working with him for all these years.
And how long at this point? How long is has the show been running? How long has the award festival been running?
This is going to be our 10th year, and we've
wow.
grown so much. I mean, our first year we had no idea what we were doing, and and here we are. We're doing a 10-day event. We've got a huge opening party, 7 days of films and panels and Q&A and all of that. We have a full day of education, and then we do our giant award ceremony, which is really the biggest, glitziest award ceremony on the indie film circuit. Like nobody does this. We do a huge event. It's at the swankiest nightclub in New York. It's at Club 235th every year on the 30th floor or 22nd floor, looking straight out at the Empire State Building. You have the whole city glittering around you. It's really pretty. And we do the full thing. We have live entertainment. We have girls in swanky dresses. We have crystal awards. We've got a photo booth and snacks. And it's a full, it's as close as we can get to something like the Golden Globes on a limited budget. But it's super fun event.
What would you say kind of separates it from other festivals, and what was kind of the mission that you wanted when it started? Like, what was the kind of impetus behind it?
So George, as a filmmaker, had films on the festival circuit for years and wasn't really delighted with what he was seeing. A lot of fests, you either have the big festivals that are only taking celebrities and multi-million-dollar films. Right? And let's be realistic, you're not getting into Tribeca unless you have a celebrity in your film and a giant budget. You're just not. And then you have the little festivals, and this was 10 years ago, you have the little festivals that can be really great, but also can be not super well organized. They, a lot of times they're vehicles to show their friends' films. And they can be a little chintzy. It's better now than it was 10 years ago, but so what he wanted to do was make a festival that treated the little guy like a celebrity, that gave you some of the hoopla that you would get if you were George Clooney going to whatever Sundance, but for the little guy. And so we always really focused on having the biggest awards and the fun swag and things like that to really support the little guy, to give them an experience in New York like the celebrities get. So that was one part of it. And then the other part was we wanted to have a little bit of everything. We didn't want to be showing our friends' films. We wanted to be showing films that were awesome and that people weren't seeing. We wanted to showcase a huge variety of filmmakers because there's great stuff getting made everywhere. And we wanted to show all of that. We wanted to show cool films from, Turkey, and some like neato, weird experimental animation work from Iran. And we wanted a superhero movie shot in New Jersey. We wanted a little of everything. And we wanted it to be fair. So we have had in place since the very beginning a very strict judging process. I don't judge submissions because I deal with the filmmakers and the submitters, and I don't think it's fair. Our judges, each film is watched by at least 4, sometimes 5 or 6 judges. I've got about 50 judges around the world with all varieties of film experience. And they watch the films and they score the films, and we make the selections based on their scores. So being a festival friend doesn't help you. The judges aren't told film budgets. They're told almost nothing about the films. They're judging it by what's on the screen. So we're really proud that works out to a really awesome selection of film. Like every single film is excellent. So that's our focus is really on very high quality and a diverse array of films, and then lots of hoopla to make it fun.
Do you feel like it's more of kind of a celebration or a competition? Like, are these, because whenever you have awards, it's a competitive thing, but there are a lot of awards I think that you guys have. So if you have a film, are you up for more than one thing? Can you win in a variety of categories, or are you limited to whatever you submit it as?
You're not limited to what you're submitted as, and we just have. I think it's depending on the year, anywhere from 12 to 14 awards. So it's not that many. We have the normal, best picture, best short, best documentary, best animated, best actress, best actor. The normal. We have just a normal slate of awards. The competition. No, I think it's really much more a celebration of film. It's really set up for filmmakers. We really are we try very hard to facilitate networking. It's exciting for us when we have filmmakers who, a filmmaker from Mexico met a filmmaker from Germany at our event, and they start working together. We also get a lot of students who are attendees who are networking with each other. So it's really just an event for the filmmaking community to be together and celebrate themselves.
At this point, how do you see the festival fitting into the festival landscape in terms of like, has the festival sort of evolved from what it was? Is it about something different than it was now thematically?
We have evolved over time. We've gotten bigger. We are much more um, about education than we were the first couple of years. Our education segment has grown quite a lot over the years, and our education segments are generally geared towards emerging filmmakers just entering the market, particularly in New York. So we do sessions on legal issues and immigration issues and shooting in New York. We have the city come in every other year or so to talk about shooting in New York and getting permits and how does that work and can you shoot on the subway? We get sessions on music and film, how to pick music, how to compose music for your film. Um, we've done sessions about distribution, just a full explanation of what is distribution, what are the different kinds of distribution, what do you need to do to get your film distributed. Um, this year we're going to be doing a session on producing and how does that work and what do producers have to say. So our education segment is always free. It's open to the public, and we really try. We want to help filmmakers get into the industry. We want to give them a chance to shine. We want to give them a chance to meet each other. Um, so that is really our focus, and that has evolved over time. The education aspect has definitely evolved.
With the landscape being what it is, because your festival was really kind of about getting people together, and you had this big celebration. And we're in a time where we can't really do that, and now 2021 is kind of like, at least by this time in 2020, we knew we couldn't do anything. So everybody went virtual, and everybody had to kind of scramble and reschedule. You rescheduled right away and pushed the festival back, which I thought was very smart. But so this year you're in September, I want to say.
We're in September. It's going to be winter in September. So it will be the first year that we're not worrying about it snowing through our event, which will
That's not a bad thing.
In my next life, it will be summer film awards and not winter film awards. But yeah, every year we're loading something in the snow every year.
Now, I mean, we don't know what September is going to bring in terms of, are we going to have more cases? More people are getting vaccinated, but there's a lot of people who are not getting vaccinated. It's an incredible joker to play, I think, for anybody trying to do anything in the event world. And if you have anything in a theater, they're open, but they're only open to a certain capacity, especially here in New York. I don't know. I mean, maybe if you live in Iowa, it'll be fine, to have an indoor theater event. So, do you have a plan? Are you going to go virtual, or are you going to go partially virtual, partially, like, how do you plan to work it so far?
We debated for a while about how to do it. We decided not to go with a virtual event, and I just felt like the some of the greatest things about our event is the in person. It's the parties, it's the networking, it's the hanging out, and it seemed like taking that away really took the joy out of the event. And so I didn't want to go virtual. And so we decided to wait. So it is a gamble. We are hoping that by September the world will be open again. Signs are looking good for New York. Supposedly New York would be all open by July. So I have fingers crossed, and I'm hoping as we get closer, if it turns out that the pandemic comes back really bad, or is still raging to the point outside the US that we're not getting people coming in, we may go hybrid. I'm hoping not, though. I think that nothing beats a live event, that nothing beats, As a filmmaker, there is nothing more exciting than sitting in a movie theater surrounded by strangers watching your movie. And it's just that community experience of viewing movies and talking about movies and hanging out with people who make movies. I just don't want to lose that. I think it's so important, and it's exciting, and I'd rather wait. So that's our position right now. If the pandemic goes crazy again, we will reevaluate then. But I've decided to be optimistic.
Obviously, it's a really interesting time right now, and it's a very unpredictable time. And for people who live outside the U.S., sometimes in some places this is worse. New York has been really, we were stamped down a lot last year, and especially with movie theaters. Now, movie theaters have been able to reopen, but only to a certain capacity. So, my assumption is even by September, things will be a bit smaller, and we don't even know if people will be able to travel. So is that is it going to be like, okay, we're going to have an in-person event, but it'll be more of a scaled down affair?
I can't answer that right now. I do expect that we're going to wind up doing our Q&A sessions will be hybrid, because I can't imagine that we're going to get normally we get about 3/4 of the filmmakers attend the festival, and I can't imagine that we would have that this year. It seems really unlikely. So I would think Q&A will definitely be virtual. um, I I don't know. I think that by the time the virus starts to wane, I think in New York, people will be really desperate to go out and appreciative of the community experience. So if it's possible, I think if it's possible to go out, I think people will. That's my hope. But I don't know. I don't have the crystal ball. I'm hoping that we go back to it, not only go back to normal, but that New York City comes roaring back and it's as great as it's always been.
My concern always, like, I'm personally, like, I'm wearing two masks on the subway, and dealing with vaccination and all kind of stuff like that. The My impulse is probably not to run out to a theater anytime soon, until things are significantly changed. Now, this is, we're taping this in May. By September, 6 months from now, 4 or 5 months from now, who knows what it's going to be like? It could be better, it could be worse. I certainly feel for the people who aren't, anxious to run around, and I also feel for the people who are anxious to run around. And like my movie reviewer, this guy William Hammond, who's out in L.A., he was just like, I can't wait to get back. He's like, I'll wear a hazmat suit. I don't
No,
care.
seriously, I just want to go out.
I just want to get back into a movie theater.
I
You
know.
know,
6 months ago, so it's May. So 6 months ago, it was November, and we were hitting some of the worst of the pandemic in the US then. And now here we are 6 months later, and it's looking like we're coming out of it. So I don't know. I really I don't know. It's a weird year. Um, and everything could go pear-shaped again.
my concern also is, like, for filmmakers who are looking to submit. I'm actually, we just finished a project, and we're submitting to film festivals right now. And, some of them are going to be virtual, and some of them, might have some kind of an in person thing. I know people who, like yourself, who run film festivals, and they're all doing the same dance. They're all trying to figure out, and then, like, okay, if I get into a theater, great, but then, are enough people going to show up? Am I going to sell enough tickets for it to be worth it to get this venue? Is it going to be profitable? Is it going to be dangerous? Like, we don't know.
I
And I feel for, like, filmmakers, the whole point is exactly what you're talking about. Going out there and shaking hands and meeting people and having that great feeling of hearing a bunch of people laugh when they're supposed to,
exactly. That's what we
or
want. Yeah.
shuffle and weep when they're supposed to. But it's all relative now. So I think the prudent thing to do is what you're talking about, is like, if you're gonna have meetings, have them like this, and then for the screenings, it's like whatever capacity is safe, and then you're gonna have an award show. I imagine you probably won't have as many people there, but I'm sure that there will be people who would love that, you know, and hopefully by then it'll be safe. And but you know, for filmmakers, do you have for people who are kind of deciding, am I gonna submit? Am I gonna not submit? Is this the year? Should I hold on to my film? What do you think? What would your advice be to people?
Well, I mean, if you're a filmmaker and you're absolutely opposed to having your the festival you're submitting to possibly go all virtual, then it's worth waiting. But otherwise, assume that everybody's in the same boat. The whole industry is in the same boat. So if your film is ready, start sending it out. I mean, we don't know what nobody knows what's going to happen. There's no answer here. So pick your festivals wisely. We have on our website, we have a bunch of advice for filmmakers on how to pick festivals so that you're picking a legitimate festival that's not a scam. But pick festivals wisely. I think it's even more important now, since if you go into Film Freeway, you see a lot of festivals that are online only that are scams or that awards mills. And you still want a legitimate festival. There are plenty of legitimate festivals that have gone online only, but you want to make sure it is a real festival. You need to do some research. But yeah, I mean, go for it. I mean, what are you going to do? Let your film just sit and rot for 2 years? Like, take the same leap. Everybody's taking the same leap. You have to get out there. Festival premiere requirements seem to be for festivals that have those. I think a lot of those rules have been either relaxed or gotten rid of altogether. So it shouldn't hurt you to be in a festival that's purely virtual, unless you're strongly against it. Go for it. Let's see what's going to happen. I think that festivals will be coming back. Certainly by September, it's sounding like a lot of festivals are planning on being back.
I mean, we have a number of them coming back. I don't. I know that a lot of them that were Summerfest are going to move to the fall or later in the year. It's just going to be interesting. We try to report on it as best we can here, and we try to, post on a blog about it when festivals are open and when you should submit, when you should not submit, and it's all still mysterious, but I think you make some good points. Is there anything that you would say? Winter Film Awards looks for in particular, like maybe two or three qualities that you guys say, oh, that's a film for us?
So we do have, for each film, it's seen by at least 4 people with completely different tastes. It's at least 2 women and 2 men will watch every film. So in general, they're looking for something they haven't seen before. They're looking for um, something a little different. And then there's always, for submissions, in 10 years of doing this, I can think of maybe 6 films in all time that the judges thought weren't long enough. The everybody needs to edit down their film. Everybody's film is too long. And the judges, so that is definitely a film that is the right length for the story people look for. Sound is critically important. I see on all the filmmaker groups, filmmakers are always trying to figure out what's the best lens and the best camera and all of that. Don't waste your money on cameras and lenses. Almost any camera is probably good enough. Spend your money on sound, because bad sound, it doesn't matter if your film is Citizen Kane. If your sound is bad, your film is not getting into anything. So it's really my advice for filmmakers looking to get into festivals and who are looking to make sure that their film is as good as possible for a festival. It's really cut it down. Make sure that it's not too long. The scenes that you love and that you spend a lot of money and effort on are not necessarily they're hard to cut, but they sometimes they need to go. They don't advance the story. So Work on and by length, I don't mean like there's an arbitrary length that is the perfect length for a short, but your film needs to be as long as it needs to be to tell your story, but not any longer than that. And it's a tough line to figure out what that is, but a lot of times the complaint about a film is that it has this part's great, that part's great, but it drags for a while. There's a long, boring section, you know. And it's so length, sound are your two most important things. The rest of it, as long as the story is good, the story is good. Like there's nothing else specific that we would point to and say you must have. Whatever. Judges are generally forgiving of muddy picture, but never forgiving of muddy sound. Judges are a funny film or a good horror film does not maybe need as good acting as a drama. So it just, everything depends on the film, but they want to see something they haven't seen yet. They want to see something different. They want to see something that is entertaining. I mean, that is the point of movies when it comes down to it. You want to be entertained in some way. You want to learn something if it's a documentary, and if it's you want to laugh, you want to cry, you want to be scared, you want all of that experience from a movie. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for something we haven't seen yet.
Excellent. So for those who want to know more about the fest, where can they find you guys on the web?
The festival itself is September 23rd to October 2nd. And you can find out more information at www.winterfilmawards.com.
And that's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for taking this trip down the rabbit hole. For more of our content, including our film festival coverage, visit our website, norestfortheweekendpodcast.com. Don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Once again, I'd like to thank my guest, Steffanie Finn, and our sponsor, JMR Rentals. For Behind the Rabbit Productions, I'm Jason Godbey. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.